Dealing with the unexpected death of an employee. This morning, a bunch of news flashed around in our regional TV about the death of a young male, just out of his teens, killed in front of his house while going home from college last night. That kid was one of our dearest employees. Not in the sense of being our top performer, but he was like those people that are a shard of happiness in the workplace. Always happy, always cheerful, always upbeat and trying to make everyone around him happier. Most people came to work today in tears. A few skipped work to stay home. We started the day today with a brief meeting on the parking lot, where we held hands and did a little faith-agnostic prayer. We tried to have a relatively normal day today, but it was almost impossible. Seeing his desk without him around to crack a silly joke was really hard for a lot of people. After lunch, we gathered everyone together once more and gave them the rest of the day off, keeping only the bare-bone operational team, managers and 1 or 2 employees by team, on site. The whole experience was extremely difficult to deal with, and triggered a few discussions between the management team. We never had to deal with a situation like this one before, and the feeling that we must have done something more keeps nagging us to no end. How do you deal with the death of an employee, regarding your team? How do you make people feel a little better after something sad like this happens? Thank you all for all the support you guys gave us. That means a lot. This community keeps showing how awesome it is every single day.
At my previous company, the well-liked co-founder and CEO died suddenly on a Sunday. On Monday morning there was a company-wide meeting to share the news. It wasn't already in the news like yours was, and anybody who wanted to go home did, no questions asked. On Tuesday the company was closed for the funeral. Many but not all employees attended, and it was okay if people didn't. The company rented a room at a local restaurant after the funeral so we could gather without invading the family's space, and they picked up the tab. The company also arranged for the services of a professional grief counselor. Yes, that's a thing. Anybody who wanted this counseling could get it for free and in a confidential way, i.e. they didn't set this person up in a central conference room where everybody could see who was going in. I didn't participate in that, so I don't know all the details. Over time, people adjusted. I think being able to attend the funeral and that gathering afterward was important, and obviously the funeral attendants had to be okay with his family. They checked, we didn't just invade. The other thing that happened was a year later, on the anniversary, when some employees set up a little memorial area outside the conference room that was named after him. And there was gathering and sharing of stories and memories, and a general understanding that people were free to participate if they wanted to. Managers were not hovering over people bugging them to get back to work and stuff. It's been almost 12 years now and a lot of us still miss him, but time does have a way of helping. The company went on and the team went on. Allow time for grieving and memories, provide support if you can, and don't push people toward or away from a certain level of participation. People grieve in their own ways, one size won't fit all.
One way to deal with it as a team is to pass the hat around and collect some money, then buy a bunch of flowers or something and either send a couple of representatives to the family to offer condolences, or go en masse. This gives everyone involved a stake in it and a feeling that they have done something and a bit of closure. In my country we'd actually give the $dollar and a card, rather than flowers. It has the added benefit of making the family feel better as well, knowing their loved one is missed and respected at his workplace. If the boss or manager can go, that's the best in terms of showing respect. You don't hang around crying, you just show up, hand over the envelope. A rep makes a short speech about how great the chap was, then you get out and leave the family to their grief.
Other people have already dealt with the grief-related aspects of a deceased employee. I want to talk about the business-related aspects. Notify your insurance provider, if you have one, that one of your employees has died. They will pay out life insurance to the next of kin, if applicable. Get someone trusted to go through their work computer and make an inventory of what is in there. If there happens to be anything of personal nature in there, make a copy of those files and deliver them to the next of kin. Anything business-related that needs retention should be retained. Get someone trusted to go through their locker, if applicable, and desk drawers. As with their computer, hand personal belongings to the next of kin and retain anything worth retaining for the business. Get someone trusted to go through their work email. Any email conversations that are still ongoing should be handed over to someone who is familiar with the matter, who should then inform the person on the other side about what has happened and that they'll take over. While going through their email, check if there are any websites they have registered an account with using their work email address. For each account, verify if the account is relevant to the business. If the account is relevant to the business and somehow isn't registered to a company-owned email address, change the registered email address, if possible, and password so another employee can access it. If the account is not relevant to the business, but is also a personal account of the employee, like social media or forums, discuss with the family if they want to take over the account so they can turn it into a memorial page or similar. If the account is not relevant for the business any longer and isn't a personal account of the employee, something like an account for a sandwich bar the employee orders their lunch at, change all the fields to random nonsense and delete the account. The reason you want to change it to nonsense is because many websites don't actually delete accounts for accounting reasons, so the data still remains. Verify all places where their user account on your system still has access. Remove it where possible, replace with their replacement where needed. Once you have ensured that there are no systems or services that require their account, deactivate it and wipe their work computer so you can give it to their replacement. In the weeks after the above has been dealt with, determine the business processes the deceased employee is involved in. This can be any number of processes, ranging from something as minor as ordering lunch for the weekly meeting, to more involved actions like adapting procedures to new legislation. Reassign these processes among the employees who have the competencies to handle these assignments. Start with those processes which are business critical, like keeping inventory stocked in retail. In the case of these uniquely qualified processes, it's a good idea to assign both a main and a backup employee to handle these, and make sure that both of them are capable of doing it. After this, move to the processes which only the deceased did or could. Again, assign both a main and a backup employee and ensure they're both capable.
From my experience, sometimes it is best to talk about it. Provide a way for employees to express their feelings, and respect those that need time, but at the same time press on with work and get projects done. Perhaps management could bring in a professional to provide counseling. Very sorry for your loss.
My only knowledge of this comes from my personal losses, not from any professional training, but I have some thoughts based on my experiences that I hope will be helpful. You might consider looking in the budget for money to hire a professional or team of professionals who have experience helping with workplace tragedies. You'll want to maintain the utmost sensitivity and also foster healing. At some point life must go on, and it is a hard question to decide how soon that should be. As I mentioned in my comment, people grieve differently. Anything that is done as a company as part of the grieving process is probably best made clearly optional. Those who feel that they would be helped by participating in something can, while those who need to be alone or with those who aren't coworkers won't feel like they will be looked down on for not participating. Funerals and services are quite painful but also cathartic and important for healing, at least for most people. You might reach out to the family and ask if they are willing and able to allow the deceased's coworkers to attend a service, if one is being held alternatively, or in addition, a service of sorts at the office may be helpful. Giving people a chance to talk about the deceased and to talk to each other and be social can be very helpful. Allowing people to be present without any pressure to speak or socialize is also important. People bond over food, and food can be comforting. A day of no work, catered lunch, discussion, remembrance, a slideshow of happy memories of the deceased. Optional activities like these can both allow people some space to grieve while also marking out a time where it's appropriate to be fully human and emotional at the office. After a company service or attending the family service, gentle encouragement, perhaps beginning the following business day or the next Monday, to look back at work will hopefully feel appropriate. Allowing people time off if they need it within reason will be appreciated. I know when my close friend died, I walked into my boss's office and calmly told her what had happened, but I said I wanted to focus on work. Then I burst into tears and she insisted I go home, for which I was very grateful later on. Stephen Covey wrote that relationships are more important than results. Some may dispute that assertion, but I believe he really has something there. For you, you have both a challenge and an opportunity to put that idea to the test. I believe and hope that if you can take some time out to cater to the relationships between you and your employees and their relationships with each other, healing will be fostered and a deeper relationship between you all and with the workplace itself may result. Again, my deepest sympathies and best wishes.
There's one factor which is necessary to heal every hurt, and that is time. Here are a few things I have learned when going through difficult emotional times. Don't expect things to be easy. It's easy to focus on the future when the tears will be wiped away and you'll be happy once again. That's not bad. But don't focus just on that. Recognize the time as difficult. Recognize the struggle in your own heart. Let your employees know that you're finding it as hard as they are. Don't hide your feelings. Frequently going through a difficult experience together can actually pull you closer to each other. I know that has been the case for me. Don't push business. Just let the adjustment take place gradually. Community building, whether it be family, workplace, or organizational, is more important long-term than the organization itself or what the stated objective of the organization is. And I add one that I personally have found very, very helpful. If you and a significant number of your employees hold to some form of Christianity, get the focus on the eternal reunion with Christ, not on the temporary loss. When you're talking with the employees, speak about eternity. Don't be overly nervous about talking about this even if you would normally be. Frequently people are more willing, and find it more helpful, to discuss this during a time of pain. Very sorry for your loss. Wish you the best during this difficult season. I do not want to force this on anyone. I just included it in case it helps for someone who holds similar beliefs. Smiley face.
People deal with death differently, at different times in their lives. When I was going through an identity crisis at 25, a cousin of mine died. This cousin I had only met twice, once shortly after he was born, which I don't remember, and then again a week before he died at 15. He had bone cancer. Despite knowing for some time that he was almost certainly going to die, he was an incredibly positive and funny guy, real living antithesis to my depression and feelings of insignificance at the time. For example, he told me quite candidly that his biggest regret was that he never had a girlfriend. When I told him it's not too late, he joked that there's no chance, because he looked like his dad, bald and always sitting in a chair. Can you believe it? That one still makes me laugh to this day. A few weeks later I learned he had died, and the whole experience really shook me to the core. I would say it's when I, for the first time ever, really appreciated that life is inherently unfair, and it's our job as humans to make the world a fairer place. It was just the right point in my life to really penetrate deeply. I didn't take a day off work, but I also didn't sleep for 3 days straight. When I did finally sleep, it was due to exhaustion. It went on like that for about 2 weeks, but at the end of those 2 weeks, I was done. I didn't have any sadness left in me. A day or two after that, I was back to normal. In total, I probably spent 10x longer being deeply sad about my cousin's death than I spent in the presence of my cousin, and it was all because of what he represented more than who he was to me. I say all this because I can imagine the situation could be similar for those at your place of work. You might find some people unusually upset. You might find some people inappropriately making light of the situation. You might also find that the people it affected the most have no obvious external signs at all, like I think I did. And you might find some people uncontrollably sad for a time, but a month later it's like nothing ever happened. Life goes on. I think it's important to view grief as a ride like that, a real roller coaster, and you never know how someone is going to react. But it does have a definitive end. It will not feel this way forever. That sort of outlook allows for exceptions to be made, but also to appreciate that soon things will likely be back to normal and nothing too irreversible should be done. That's really all anyone can ask from their boss in a time like this.